My name is Hannah Carter. I'm 36 years old. And by the time most women my age were building careers, falling in love, or learning how to live for themselves, I had already spent half my life making sure my little brother never felt how hard the world could be. I didn't come to his wedding expecting applause. I didn't need gratitude wrapped in gold paper and pretty speeches. I came because I had earned my seat in that room the hard way. I came as the woman who worked double shifts, skipped college, pawned her jewelry, and lied about being fine so a scared little boy could grow into a man with a future. So when I stepped into that elegant reception hall, wearing the best dress I could afford and carrying more pride than anyone there could possibly understand, I truly believed I was coming to witness one of the happiest moments of my life. Then I found my seat. The place card was ivory, handle-turred, and expensive enough to look delicate. I sat in front of a crystal glass and polished silverware like it belonged there. I picked it up with a smile already forming on my face. Then I read it. Poor uneducated sister, my brother's freeloader. For one full second, the room disappeared. Then the laughter started.
No.
Not shocked laughter, not nervous laughter, comfortable laughter.
Laughter.
The kind of laughter people share when they believe they're safe being cruel. My fingers went cold around the card. My throat burned. I wanted to put it down, straighten my back, and leave with whatever dignity I had left. But before I could take a step, my brother caught my wrist, stood up so fast his chair scraped across the floor, and said in a voice that silenced half the room, "Whoever thought humiliating my sister today was funny is about to learn how expensive disrespect can be." Before I tell you what happened next and why the next morning changed everything, tell me what time is it where you are and where are you watching from? I want to know so abruptly it felt like the entire room had been slapped. My brother was still holding my hand, and for the first time since I had entered that ballroom, I wasn't the embarrassed poor relative standing under rich people's judgment. I was the reason the groom had stopped his own wedding reception cold. Heads turned, forks hovered over plates. The string quartet, tucked in the corner like decoration, had quietly gone still. And across the room, the bride's father slowly rose from his chair with the offended calm of a man who had spent his entire life believing money made him untouchable. That was when I first heard his name spoken aloud by someone at the next table, Mark Whitmore. He didn't rush. Men like him never do. He adjusted the cuff of his jacket, smoothed the front of it, then looked at me the way people look at a stain they think someone else should remove. "Jake," he said, almost amused. "Sit down before you embarrass yourself even more." So that was the second name the room gave me that night. Jake, my little brother, the boy I had raised, the groom whose face had gone hard in a way I had only seen twice in my life. Once when our landlord tried to throw us out in the rain.
Out.
And once when a teacher mocked my thrift store shoes in front of him when he was 12. No, Jake said. You're going to explain why my sister's seat card says freeloader? A few people shifted uncomfortably, but Mark didn't. He even smiled, though there was no warmth in it.
Oh,
Don't be dramatic. It was a joke.
you.
Surely she's used to surviving worse than a joke. That line got a few ugly chuckles from people who had recovered just enough courage to be cruel again. My stomach clenched, but I kept my chin up. I wasn't going to cry for them. Not one tear. A woman in pale silk standing near the sweetheart table whispered, "This is exactly why class matters." I recognized her as the bride's mother before anyone said her name. Patricia, pearls at her throat, ice in her eyes. Jake took one step forward. "Say another word about my sister," he said quietly. "And I promise you this day stops being about your daughter's wedding and starts being about what kind of man you really are." That finally put a crack in the room. Not because everyone suddenly found their conscience, but because they sensed risk. Rich people can tolerate cruelty. What they fear is exposure. Mark's expression sharpened. "Young man, everything you have now exists because my daughter chose you. Because my family opened doors for you. That woman," he pointed at me without even pretending respect, "didn't build you. She held on to you." Felt Jake's fingers tighten around mine. Then he said, louder this time, "My sister fed me before she fed herself. She worked nights so I could finish school. She sold the only necklace our mother left her so I could buy textbooks. If you think that makes her a freeloader, then your definition of value is rotten." The silence that followed was different, heavier, more dangerous. Glanced toward the back of the room, and I followed his eyes just in time to see him lift his phone, not to call security.
Yep.
He was calmer than that, smarter than that. He murmured to someone on the other end, his gaze never leaving Jake. "I want the prenup attorney on standby," he said, and put a hold on the transfer we discussed.
Immediately.
Jake heard him. I heard him. And in that instant, the shape of the real threat became clear. This wasn't about one insulting card anymore. This was a man announcing that because his pride had been challenged, he was willing to use his money to punish the future. Jake looked at him without blinking. "Thank you," he said. Mark frowned. "For what?" Jake's voice dropped into something almost frighteningly steady. "For proving who you are in front of everyone. If a wealthy man could erase your tomorrow with one phone call, what would you do? Walk away and save yourself, or stay and make him regret ever trying?" The bride had been silent until then. Beautiful, frozen, and pale under the expensive reception lights. She had looked like someone standing between two worlds, and trusting neither one not to collapse. When she finally moved, it wasn't toward her father. It was toward Jake. "Stop," she whispered, but the word cracked in the middle as though it had split under the pressure of all the things she had never said out loud. That was when I learned her name, not from gossip, but from Jake's mouth. "Emily," he said softly, still staring at her father. "You need to decide whether this is a wedding or a warning." The room seemed to inhale. Emily Whitmore was not what I had expected when I first met her months earlier. She had the polish of wealth? Yes, but not its worst habits. I had seen uncertainty in her from the beginning. The kind that comes from loving someone your family approves of on paper, but not in truth. She loved Jake's potential. Her father loved the idea of owning part of it. And in that ballroom, with the place card still in my hand like evidence, Emily looked at me as if she suddenly understood that marrying the man she loved meant finally facing the kind of family she had been born into. Mark's voice sharpened. "Emily, come here." She didn't move. Patricia stepped in, smiling. That brittle society smile meant to disguise panic. "Sweetheart, your father is trying to contain an ugly scene. Don't make this harder." Emily swallowed. Then she looked at me again, and what crossed her face was not pity. It was shame. Deep, unmistakable shame. "Did you know?" I asked her because I needed the truth more than I needed comfort. Her eyes filled immediately. "No," she said. "I swear to you, I didn't know." That should have been enough to soften me. But humiliation has a long echo, and I had spent too many years surviving by distrusting easy tears. Before I could answer, Jake spoke. "Then prove it." Emily flinched like he had struck her. Mark took a step forward. "That's enough.
Oh.
She owes none of you a test." Jake finally let go of my hand and squared himself to the room. "No," he said. Actually, everyone in here owes my sister an answer. Because all of you laughed before you knew whether she'd survive it." And then the scene shifted in my mind with the strange clarity trauma sometimes gives you. Saw my brother at 8, sitting at our chipped kitchen table, fighting a fever, while I pressed cool towels to his forehead before heading to my night shift. I saw him at 14, too proud to admit he needed money for a school trip. Pretending he didn't care while I picked up an extra weekend cleaning off his bathrooms. I saw him at 17, standing in our apartment doorway with a scholarship letter in one hand and tears in his eyes because he knew exactly what it had cost me to get him there. Emily's voice broke through my thoughts. "I know what she did for you," she said. Mark laughed once, cruel and dismissive. "You know the sentimental version." Emily turned to him so fast even he looked startled. "No," she said, and this time there was steel in her voice. "Know the real version." Jake told me how she raised him, how she became more parent than sister, how she buried her own future to protect his.